And there we go. That's the new intro.
Perfect.
All right, Dave. So you're going to be the guest this week. Obviously, the winner of Moses Lake for a couple times, Potholes. You know, I can tell you that. I know Chad was saying something that we got to knock you out of here. Enough of that business.
Yeah, it's been a fun little ride here the last couple of years. So
yeah,
things are just seem to be working out just right, making up for all the bad decisions I made in the past, I guess, coming around and evening out, I guess. So
sure. Heck yeah, I hear you there. There you go, Chad. You hear anything?
Yeah, got it working now.
Excellent. Good.
Hopefully he didn't just give away all the tips because I missed everything you said.
That was it. Yeah, the conversation's over. That's it.
Yeah, spilled all the secrets, man. You're late to the party. No, but anyway, congrats on that. I mean, that's pretty cool to be able to. It's like Chad was talking last week, and I don't even, I haven't looked, but like the last 3 tournaments you've been in, you won.
Yeah, 3 in a row. So crazy part, my partner never fished one before in those 3. So he's never lost. He's 3 for 3. So what's the chances? I tell him he's going to be in for a cultural shock here pretty quick because these things don't last.
You never know. It might be your lucky charm.
Yeah, like everybody asks who I fish with, they say, "Oh, Tom Brady." So that's what I knew.
Yeah, that's good. So, kind of going back into that. It was a tough tournament, this last one for Moses Lake. Even the winning weight was not what we usually see.
Yeah, it's a one-day total. So,
yeah. I mean, what did you see going into that?
Tough fishing, man. I almost didn't fish it. I decided, Wednesday we fished all day and we did not catch a walleye. I caught a couple during the week, but, you get one fish and that would be it. And then Thursday, we pretty much decided if we didn't catch any fish Thursday, we weren't going to fish it. We were just going to go up to Rufus for a couple of days and steal some of Chad's fish there. But we stumbled into some. We hit 3 spots. We fished in the south end, and we caught fish in 3 spots. 2 of them we got them in the tournament. And actually, our second spot was where the first place team was first day. They were in our other spot, so. And we got 1 out of there, but the conditions totally changed in there on Saturday. Our primary spot was good, and I think the reason it was good, we went in there and it was sucked in fog, so the sun hadn't come up. And we hooked 4 fish in probably the first 10, 15 minutes. Lost the first one, landed a couple of dinks, and then got a 4.5 pounder. Fog burned off. That we never had another bite in there. That was it. So, we found a few fish. Up kind of mid-lake area at the end of the first day. We got one, like a 3 pounder out of there. So we bounced around a little bit from 10 o'clock till noon, probably 12:30, figuring 2 hours on that other spot. Hoping we could pluck a couple out of there. And we did. We got 2. So a couple more, like 20 inchers. So that kind of saved us. So.
Because you had 6 fish both days, right?
No, we had 5 both days. I think the only team that had 6 was James. So I think they're the only team that weighed 6 each day. So
yeah, I didn't go back and look. I just know that, even for us, we had 4 the first day and we're sitting in 5th place. And then Sunday it was just, it was rough.
Yeah, it was brutal. Yeah, that was about as tough a bite as I've ever seen. So it was a tough go.
Have you been out there since the tournament?
I have not. No, I'm kind of remodeling a shower right now, so I'm not getting as much fishing time in. But this week I've been on Potholes every time I go. So
I was just wondering if it turned on out there or if it's just numbers are down.
I feel confident I go in there and catch fish now, but I think it was just right on the cusp of going. As soon as some weeds start growing, I think it'll turn on. And I actually saw we caught a couple green weeds this morning in Potholes. That's the first green weed I've seen all spring, I think. So get a little growth. They should move in there, get some fish spawning, get some bait fish in there for them to feed on, and that should pull them into the shallows where a guy can catch it more consistent, I think. So.
Yeah, I know that's what we were talking about too, was the fact that just the weed growth everything's so late this year.
Oh, it's terrible. Yeah, it's hard. They're hard to pattern. I think they're just kind of like spread out all over the place. They don't seem to be. It's hard to find a concentration of fish. So,
yeah, for sure. So what did you guys? You don't have to give any major secrets or anything, but what did you find for depth wise where you were catching most of your fish?
we got our fish in 3 to 5 foot of water. The majority of them. We were fishing really shallow. So,
Gotcha.
and then, but our afternoon fish were deep. We were catching those in 12 to 16 foot of water. So we had to make some adjustments to catch, but
sure.
And a lot of
just
that
another, just another example of if you have a choice to go deeper or shallower, man, I don't know what the number is. Just 9 times out of 10, it's not deeper.
No, it's not. And I think that has a lot to do with the water clarity in Moses Lake. And fish is totally different anymore. There's even when the weeds are growing, there's way less weeds because they poison it off, which is terrible for the fishing in that lake. Does not help it at all. But the water just seems to be clearer and clearer every year. So I don't know.
Yeah, unless you talk to the people out there in August and then they're complaining because it's like pea soup.
Yeah, that's different. But that's, that stuff's kind of just floating on the surface. You leave a trail that's clear behind you. So it's not, it's pretty nasty on the surface. But I don't really fish it then. I fish it a lot in September and October, though. Fish is really good that time of year. So, it's pretty much just a blade bait and show at that time, about the middle of September on. It's pretty phenomenal. It's really good fishing. So.
Well, that's what we were talking about before was, we hit that tournament, and you kind of get into that mode when you're tournament fishing, you hit those lakes. And then, I used to live on Moses Lake, and after the tournament, I probably didn't fish it again until October.
Yeah. So. Yeah. I'll fish it. Yeah. I'll fish it up. Yeah. That's because at the time the tournament that was about the time it peaked out, and then it would start getting a little tougher. So, but this year, obviously, but yeah, anytime about to the middle of June is about I'll stop fishing it for a while and then hit it again about the middle of September. I'll start fishing it again. So,
gotcha. Was your primary tactic out there casting, trolling?
In the tournament or just in general? Yeah, pretty much trolling. We didn't catch a fish on a worm, even pre-fishing. We caught all our fish on plugs, so that's what we stuck with. So we didn't have to change. We knew it was tough. If we're scratching just enough up. Take our chance and see what we got the first day. And if we're right there, we'll just do the same thing for the most part. We never really had to change. So we did catch a couple pre-fishing at one of our spots. We actually caught one on a blade bait. I was blading and the other guy was dropped. My partner, Andy, was drop shot. And we bagged 2 20-inchers in like 5 minutes in this spot. Figured that was our third spot. We never touched a fish. And that's one spot we didn't catch them in afterwards. But that's all. I don't know if they were just there for a short time apparently. So we didn't even mark fish in there. We marked them the first, when we pre-fished it that Thursday, and then, man, nothing. Didn't even mark a fish in there during the tournament. So we checked it both days, but nothing. So
yeah, well, like I said, it just seems everything was just late because usually, when you've got water flow mid-May, even early May, you can go up to the fill and drop shot, and you can catch just a bucket load of 16 to 20 inches.
Yeah.
But it's like I was telling everybody else, I went up there with the camera and the fish were in there. They just wouldn't bite.
Yeah.
I threw everything I had at them.
Yeah. Trust me, I pre-fished it several times and we knew they were there, but yeah, they wouldn't touch nothing. So it's kind of crazy. Usually I'll fish it like steelhead. I'll go in there and just drift a split shot in Nikon and just drift it down through the hole. And that works really well in there most of the time, but nothing worked. It was pretty crazy. I don't know what you'd think. You think they'd be hungry by now. They got to eat eventually. So
yeah, you would think so. I saw a post, I think it was either today or yesterday, about somebody catching some fish out there at Potholes, and they said they were just coming out of the spawn, which is just weird.
Yeah. Well, we caught those fish we were catching at Mid Lake in that Moses Lake tournament. They were spewing all over my boat, man. I was surprised. The fish we caught up south did not, but the ones that were at Mid Lake I probably lost 5 ounces in my boat. So it seemed like
they were happy to see you.
Yeah, I guess so. So
yeah.
But Potholes is going to be I don't think it's going to be a smoke show either. So I don't know. We'll see. Our pre-fishing isn't going that great. So got 2 more days to put something together, but
Yeah. Well, I hope you do well. I mean, we were out there last Friday and Saturday in the spots that I usually fish and do well in. I mean, I ran the camera through it. Just by chance, we figured, well, we'll make a couple passes, casted, trolled, and we didn't pull a fish out of my main spots.
Yeah.
Which kind of freaked me out a little bit. So then we just started roaming around. We ended up with Friday, we had 18 pounds, and Saturday, we had 15.
That's pretty good. Yeah.
But that's not going to happen next weekend.
Yeah. Well, they'll get pounded on a lot. So last year was pretty easy to find, a lot easier to find the fish, just because it was easy to run crankbaits. Everything was, the lake was so low, it was just easy to fish them. You could stay out of the weeds, no problem. As high as it is this year, that's going to be a little challenging. So,
yeah,
probably see how
Lonnie,
that goes. But
did you just say you had 15 pounds one day and 18 last weekend? Is that what you said?
Friday we had 18 pounds, and Saturday we had about 15.
That is the best I've heard from anybody. I mean, you don't think you did good with that?
No, that's why I'm saying I was surprised. I mean, we did. I guess my point is the fact that the main spots that I usually find them in, I didn't find them, and it was just a matter of we just started roaming around. We found
them, and right. You didn't find them where you expected to find them.
Right, and that's why I said next weekend. I know. I mean, I don't know. It's just my luck that ain't going to happen.
Yeah. It's kind of weird how same spots are consistent every year. You'll catch them in other spots here and there, but they're just not. Some spots they just seem to always be there, and some spots they're
right.
You can go in and catch one or two, but you usually don't catch huge numbers in those spots either. It doesn't seem like But if you got 5 or 6 of those spots where you can swing in there and catch a couple, that'll work for a guy. So.
Yeah, the one spot that I have, at least for the last last year was different because the water was low, but when the water's higher, I can go in there and you can pretty much stay there all day long and catch walleye. They're not always big, but you'll get, it was really weird because you would get early in the morning, you would get 15, 16, 17 inchers. And by about 9:30, 10 o'clock, you could start upgrading to 17, 18 inchers. You'd start picking up some 20s later, but all day long you'd catch fish in that one spot. And it was no more than probably 200 yards long, maybe 75 yards wide.
Yeah. That's the pot of fish we found last year, the second day in Potholes, where that wasn't a very big spot. We had 6 when we got in there, but they were like the first day we'd been catching nice fish. There was a really good crankbait bite I had it going on for almost 2 weeks, and then, we caught a bunch of fish the first day, but we couldn't catch anything over 19 inches. It was weird. And then the second day, I'd found a bunch of fish Thursday side scanning, and we kind of left them alone. I figured we could get 17, 18 pounds where we were because that's what we'd been catching every day, and just didn't happen. So we hit that second spot the next day, and we trolled into it with the crankbaits. It was the same thing. We had 19 inchers. We couldn't get anything bigger than 19. We need to switch. So we switched running crankbaits and went to worms, and I ain't kidding you, the next 15 minutes we culled out all 6 of those fish, and 4 of them were over 23 inches, and we just kept catching them. We caught fish all day long in there. We'd expand out a little bit. We'd kind of do circles around the spot for a while, and they'd kind of slow down. So we'd move another 100 yards out, we'd get into them again, catch those ones, move on. It just never quit. So they were all nice fish. I think everything we were catching was 20 to 25 inches. So that was fun.
So how do you approach potholes like this when it's high?
It's harder. I fish in a lot of my primary spots. I'm going to definitely go as far back in as I can. That's kind of my game plan at this point, but start poking around there. I usually try not to fish Friday if I don't have to. So since I'm only fishing 2 tournaments now, I pretty much take the whole week off before the tournament. So I'll kind of spread it out a little bit and not have to, burn myself out fishing every day. And Friday, I usually just kind of go out and do a little scanning for a couple hours, but probably going to have to spend a little more time on the water Friday than I was planning on the way things are going. So I may not drop a line. I might just go scan and see what I can find. So that crankbait bite's going to be pretty tough because all the pockets last year, everything was 14 foot was the deep spots back there last year. This year, 2022, and if you try to run something that deep and you go, you hit those weeds, and it's just a slime fest back there. So it's that makes it a little tougher. Yeah, it's
or you come up to that one bush that you didn't notice.
Yeah,
that's sitting in about 7 feet of water, and you got all 4 crankbaits stuck in it.
Yeah, I got.
Well, he'll catch a fish though on that third, the one that didn't get snagged. He'll catch a fish on that one.
Yeah,
right.
Yeah, it makes it worth it. But yeah, $25 fish when you snap off your other crankbaits. But right.
Yeah.
But so I'm probably going to go into this one fishing. I'm probably going to fish bait more than I fish plugs in this one. But we've always had our biggest bags, even though the crankbait bite's good in there. I think we've probably had big bag in that tournament 5 or 6 times, and every time it's on worms, it's not on crankbaits. So
I got a couple questions for both of you guys, because you guys have both had success there. Dave has obviously had great success, but consider myself pretty good at catching walleyes, but I have no confidence at potholes. I don't understand it. I kind of like fishing it, but it's getting frustrating. Like last weekend was frustrating, especially, and I did hear from some other guys that I trust their, what they told me, that they did not catch any fish over like 18 inches. They caught a couple 1.5 pounders, and that was it. Some really good fishermen. And I was same thing. I mean, I think we caught 5 maybe Saturday, and maybe 3 or 4 on Sunday. But I don't know what it is about that place, but it really has me. I'm glad that we're going to be running Dan's boat, and I'm glad that he's running the boat, because I kind of get scatterbrained out there because there's just so many options. Like, I lock up, I think, because I can't keep anything consistent out there. I'll see something I need to go over to, and I really struggle out there. I don't understand it, to be honest with you. It kind of drives me nuts. So what tips do you have for somebody that in theory probably should be able to catch fish, but do you think that the majority of those fish are random out there, and you just have to find the right pockets of fish and sample them during the tournament for 10 minutes, and if they don't bite, move to the next hole and just keep moving and moving and moving? Or do you I know some guys just put cranks out real high and just drive and catch fish. When I try that, I snag up and lose cranks, and that hasn't worked for me. So I'm thinking this year it's going to be like Dave just said: drive around a lot, mark fish, hope that what you're thinking, that they're walleye. Maybe drop a camera or fish for them if you want, but I'd rather just drop a camera, to be honest. Just find these pockets of fish, leave them alone, and then during the tournament, hit them. That's really all I can think of to do to try to get better at this tournament.
Yeah, that's kind of how I go into it. So you're not doing it. Your thinking's in the right place. I think it's just the fish seem to be pretty scattered right now, more so than normal. I mean, there's a lot of the pockets we've been pre-fishing that we usually, if we find them in one, there's generally some more around. Certain areas just seem to keep fish there all summer long. But we did a lot of scanning a couple of days ago, and we really didn't mark much fish. So there, a few here, a few there, but I never found a concentration of fish. So I'm hoping they're still kind of like Moses, they're just out there milling around. They don't know where they want to be yet, maybe, coming out of the spawn late, but I don't know. At some point, they got to eat, though. It's getting late enough now. I can't believe they're not biting better than what they are. It's darn near June. They should be eating. They got to eat.
Well, you got to look too. I mean, typical water temps are higher than what they are this year at this time normally. Yeah. I mean, the warmest we found out there was probably 57.5. They're usually higher than that. But the one thing that I would say. Well, the one thing that helps me out is I usually try to get on the dunes that are facing southwest, and I'm looking for green cabbage. If I can find green cabbage on that side, especially early in the morning, that's always seemed to be one of my better tickets. Yeah. Now, it doesn't matter whether it's pulling worms or casting to them. But if you can find those pockets of weeds, in that area, that's usually what seems to be the ticket for us. And they don't have to be they could be a cabbage patch that's probably 10 feet by 10 feet. And for whatever reason, those fish are going to hold it. And I'm guessing it's because of the bait fish that are in there.
Yeah. Yeah. The one decent day we had last week, we did find a little bit of that. And that's where we got them. As soon as we went through, it was like, man, that place looks like it. And, you could see them. It's like, that thing's loaded with fish. And we banged a double header, went back through it, got another one. And so they were definitely sitting on that kind of stuff. It's just really hard to find right now. Most of it isn't green; it's still brown. So,
So for people that don't know Potholes Reservoir, there's a lot of different types of vegetation. So don't know that I've found much cabbage. I'm not even sure what exactly. There's sagebrush. There's all kinds of stuff that you're not going to get your hook out of.
That's the willows, yeah.
The willows. So right now, like for people that have no clue what we're talking about, normally how much shallower or how much deeper is it right now than normally? It seemed to me like it was like 3 feet, 4 feet compared to our normal tournament.
I don't think it's usually closer to full pool during that tournament. Last year was definitely the exception, not the rule. It's generally within a foot or two of what it is now. It's just
so last year I didn't realize last year was that low. I remember it was really low.
It was low. You couldn't really get. Yeah, I never caught a fish past the big dune back there. Everything was from there out toward the face. So, and usually we'll go way back farther than that if we have to. But you can this year.
Oh yeah, and that's why I was saying those spots that we normally do good, we couldn't get to last year.
Yeah,
or if we could, they were only in about 2 to 3 feet of water, and the fish weren't in there.
Yeah, not enough water to hold them. So
if you can find cabbage, that's the juice.
Yeah, if you can find some green weed, I'd be looking for it for sure.
Yeah, and it doesn't necessarily have to be cabbage. Even if you can find some of the green grass, which that seems to be a little bit harder to find this year than the cabbage, and it doesn't necessarily, like Dave said, it's, when I say green, it's not super green right now, but anything that's got some sort of that type of vegetation, not necessarily the brown willow bushes that are sticking out. I mean, sometimes those will hold fish, but it just seems to be that the other is more of a magnet to them at this time of year.
Yeah, I've never really done good fishing over the top of those submerged willows. For some reason, you'd think there'd be fish. I know you're in them. I'm in them. You're fishing, and all of a sudden you're in a batch of them. So I'll jump up on the bow and start looking, and it's like I don't think I've ever seen a walleye in them. So I've seen some bass, but I don't know that I've ever even seen a walleye in that stuff. It's just I don't know. It's pretty gooey stuff. I don't know if that's a deterrent to them or something. You don't even really see bait fish in them, but they do like that cabbage for sure. So
and that's basically what we're doing. We're just going through and scanning. You'll find, especially like with side scanning, I mean, you can obviously see the difference between the willows and what you've got for a cabbage or a grass, and if we can find those patches, you mark it, come back through, and it may only be a 50-yard stretch. But, if you can find something that's, that in, let's say that's adjacent to something that's got a little bit of deeper water, if you can find a pool there that's got that cabbage that's on that side of the dune, that seems to be what's always worked for me. I don't know if that's just something.
Yeah, they seem to hold on the dunes, that definitely on the deep side of those dunes. So there's a deep side and there's a shallow side. So usually they do like generally when we're fishing back there, we're looking for those holes that are 20 foot deep. We don't fish 20 foot, but that's what we're looking for because they just kind of seem to like those ones. If you can find 18 to 20 foot holes back in there, those are the ones I spend most of my time fishing. And looking. So those big, long, where it's just flats and there's some of that back in there, and don't seem to catch too many in there. There's fish there, but I think they're really scattered. It'd be hard to, really sit in there and hammer on them. I think they're just pretty spread out on those flats, but.
Yeah, and I mean, we've caught them all the way back into right at the Job Corps Dyke Road.
Yeah.
You've got a pretty deep hole back there. And, I mean, basically 5 feet away from the rock bank on that road that goes in the backside.
Yeah. There's a hole there.
I don't know about this year. We didn't get back there this year. But
yeah. I'll probably be back that way tomorrow, but I probably won't let you know how I do. So no.
Dang it, we should have done this tomorrow then.
Yeah. So hopefully we'll find some. I think we'll find some. They got to be somewhere. So
yeah, and I don't necessarily always believe in the whole color thing, and I know we talked about this a little bit last week, but last weekend there was just one color that seemed to work, and I don't know if it was just something that I don't know. I tried every other color that we could think of, and it was just seemed to be one that was working. And we ended up switching all of our rigs to it, and that's what was catching fish.
Yeah, for the most part, I kind of think the opposite. I think they're really, to me, color specific at a lot of times. We caught every fish in that Moses Lake tournament in the shallow water, not even just on the same color, on the same crankbait. We were running, we'd run 2 of those and then we're always switching, trying to find something else that's going to work better. But the ones that are catching, we'll keep a couple on, but we literally change crankbaits every 15, 20 minutes. We'll take one off and try something else, just to try to zero in on even better, because I don't know. Like last year in Moses, that second day, we caught all our fish the first day, and the first part of the second day we had 2 crankbaits that were working good for us, and they just completely shut off about, probably 11 o'clock in the morning on the second day. We already had a nice bag of fish, but Andy put on a different colored Shad Rap, and he hooked 3 in a row, and one of them was probably like a 6-pounder, but he lost all 3 of them. So it's like they're hitting that one, but they ain't eating that plug. So I found one that was just as close as I had to it in a flicker minnow, and put it on, and man, they were just all over that plug. We just knocked the crap out of the rest of the day on the thing. Got another 6-pounder, and they wouldn't touch the ones we'd been catching them on for a day and a half. So they're picky.
That answer any of your questions, Chad, or just add more to it?
No, it did actually. I actually probably been fishing the snaggy stuff too much. Yeah, I probably need to move away from that horribly snaggy stuff. Because I have caught some nice fish in that stuff. Usually it ends up one rod will snag, and then the other rod that ain't a snag. So I might need to move away from that really snaggy stuff. Maybe that'll help me out.
Well, if you do good this weekend, then you'll have to give Dave props on that.
Well, I'm not running the boat, so I'm so happy because when it comes to these tournaments, when you're fishing stuff like this, that's snaggy, that requires a lot of maintenance, the guy that's running the boat really needs to be 100%. This is my opinion, but he needs to be running the boat, not doing anything else. And Dan is super, focused when he's running the boat, so he can. We talked about it. I said, you run the boat and I'll run the rods. Because there's a lot of maintenance you need to do fishing that kind of stuff, especially with all that green slime that's on.
I hate that stuff.
So you can't just put stuff out there and leave it. You need to be checking it constantly, and I actually enjoy doing that. So he's running his Warrior tiller this weekend, and I'll be watching the rods, assuming we're going to be doing what I think we're going to be doing. I don't expect us to be going out into the main lake at all. I expect that we're going to be fishing the dunes from what I've seen. And, I feel a lot more, I don't feel confident out there being the guy running the boat for some reason. Like I say, I get confused and scatterbrained because there's just so many options. And that's not a good thing. You really need to dial in on a certain piece of structure like you guys are saying. And, the best we've done out there was the last time he ran the boat out there. So it's probably all my fault that we've done bad out there now that I really think about it.
Well, everybody's got their bad leg. I go Banks Lake and free fish it, knock the heck out of them, and come tournament time, it's that lake don't like me. So that's kind of the way it is. I think everybody's got their one spot,
It can't be too bad to you, because I see, how many times did you and Sam win Angler of the Year in the last 15 years or whatever?
Yeah, I think I won it 4 times. A couple with Sam, a couple once here one year with different partners, and then I used to fish with Chuck Rowe. We won it once, and then I think we got and we were second 4 times also. So in like a 10-year span. So
You haven't won Banks Lake yet?
I got second up there once, and that's the only time I placed in the money besides catching big fish one time. That's it. So yeah, that like we'd always be, enough to keep us in we wouldn't get killed on the points, but as far as winning top 10s, no, one time. So, but I don't know. I can't figure that lake out. I mean, we have some great days, but I can't put 2 of them together in a tournament. So we'll have one good day, one really bad day. So
in Kettle Falls, you and Sam pretty much top 5 that thing every year, it seemed like.
Yeah, we did good up there. We had we took second
two.
We took second 2 years in a row, and we lost it. It's frustrating because those smaller weight tournaments both times, like Darren Green and Darren his Showalt there, they got they got a 10-pounder at the end of day 2. We would have beat them by 6. We would have beat them by 6 or 7 pounds without that fish. So
that was the year that the fish were so small they were sliding through the nets. I heard.
Yeah. We were on good fish. We had decent bags for up there. We were in the 13, 14 pounds both days. We were catching nice fish, and we pretty much. We were way ahead of the rest of the field, but one fish up there will kill you. And then the next year it was the same thing. There was a team got couple 6-pounders the first day, and they really didn't catch much else, but we ended up in second again from that,
one fish can win that tournament.
Yeah, exactly. Oh, yeah.
And
kudos to them for catching that big fish, but man, it hurts when you're on the other end of it, It's just, but that's fishing. Sure.
So here's something for you guys, because you both are, pretty good crankbaiters. So what do you guys run for setups when you're running crankbaits? And the reason why I asked this is it seemed like a couple of years ago I ran into just a major, I don't even want to say it, but it seemed like every fish, and this is why I brought this up, Dave, because you were talking about you guys losing some fish. And it seemed like every time we'd hook a fish on a crankbait, we'd lose that stupid thing. And I don't know, and I'm talking about trolling with a plating board. So I kind of changed out my gear. At the time we were running, I think it was 6.5 foot rods. They were pretty heavyweight, and I think I was running 12-pound line on it. But it just seemed like we'd get them hooked, get them halfway to the boat, and off they'd come. So just kind of talk about your setups as far as what you got going on.
Well, you definitely, from my end, you want a rod that's relatively soft, because you want that fish to grab that plug and turn before that rod loads up. You don't want it if they turn and that rod's already loaded up and it just pops right out of their mouth. It seems like you definitely want it. With the boards, it doesn't seem to matter quite as much because they're the board's making up for that. So that doesn't quite explain why you were losing them on the stiffer rods if you had a board out there. But generally, we'll a lot of times flatline crankbaits in shallow water. I don't do it as much now. I use the boards more, but we'd hook fish literally 10 feet behind the boat, running crankbaits, but we lost a lot of those fish. And I think it was the same reason. The rod would load up so stinking fast before that fish really had a chance to get that thing in his mouth and turn, and you just lose them. So with the boards, that's kind of changed that. We don't lose any on the boards now. I think the boards to make up for that difference, and we'll let them fight the boards for a while. We don't just start cranking them in, we just let them wear themselves out on the boards for a little bit and then reel them in. Then you're not.
See, and I think that was something that helped us out a lot because, the partner that I had, he was pretty new to that whole system as far as running boards. And, we finally just decided, okay, look, when we finally get one that hits, let it take the board back, let it do its thing. Don't just reach out and start pulling it in, because it seemed to me like when we were doing that, the fish were hooked better.
Yeah.
So I don't know if that's something that, everybody does, or, Chad, what's your thought on that?
Well, one question for Dave. Do you primarily run mono or braid when you're pulling cranks?
I've never used braid in my life. I use strictly mono. I've never once used braid ever.
So that's that's I know that Sam, a few years ago when I went out with Sam and he was using all mono, and I am the exact opposite. So it makes that's kind of a, I guess maybe it's a personal preference more than anything. Finding a line that you're comfortable with on the diameter and being consistent with your depth curve, that's probably more important than anything.
Yeah.
So I've used lots of different lines over the last 7-8 years, but I primarily use braid for my main line, and I'll run a mono leader. And it's worked for me, but I do think there are times when, if you're fishing real snaggy stuff, where that braid, sometimes you can straighten the hooks out and save your crankbait, but it's impossible to carry 2 setups in your boat, like of all mono crank rods and all braid crank rods and all lead core. So you almost have to decide during your pre-fish how you're going to go at them. But there are times when I wish I had, like the other day when I was rigging everything up, I was like, man, I wish I had mono on all this stuff instead of braid. But it's impossible. So I primarily use braid for my main line, and I use either an 8.5 or a 10.5. I've gotten very comfortable with a 10.5 foot rod. It takes some time, and some of the guys that fish with me hate it, but it takes time to get used to them 10.5 foot rods. But I use a 10.5 foot rod for pulling cranks, for pulling bottom bouncers, the same rod. Like Dave said, a soft tip, like medium, but they're medium, but a medium rod that's 10.5 foot long is going to have a soft tip on it. I use the same rods. Casking has a 8.6 that extends, and I've been using those for the last year. And before that, I was using Okumas that were 10.5 foot long, and I use those for pulling cranks and for pulling bottom bouncers. The same rod. They're awkward at first, but once you get used to them, I think that long rod soaks up a lot of the fight and can take a little bit of the human error out of a fight if you're working your drag properly. But I prefer the long rods, and I know a lot of guys hate the long rods, but I've gotten used to them.
Yeah, I see you. I use the long rods for pulling bouncers, and I've switched to 8-footers for the crankbaits. And I'm running basically 10-pound mono, no braid or anything. And that seems to help quite a bit. Plus, just taking the time, like you were saying, as far as not jumping on the board right away, that seems to have alleviated the problem almost altogether. I just think we were getting too quick on the boards,
Yeah, that's a lot of stress on them. Fighting, they're pulling back on the board and you're pulling back on them. It's like doubling up the tension, So it don't hurt to let them sit out there unless you're in, you got to be, if you're in some really heavy grass or something that's a little tougher to do. You don't want them diving down into stuff. But under normal circumstances, we just sometimes we'll even free spool a little bit and just let them do their thing out there, for a few minutes and wait till they settle down and work them back. So,
I think the reason I really got into the braid, to be honest with you, if I really had to digest this and think about it, because I am at this point, maybe I've been going the wrong direction here with braid, but was getting that crank. Like, I don't pull lead a ton. I actually have started in the last couple of years doing it more and more. But some of these river systems where I couldn't get a crank down with your standard mono 10-pound that had like a 0.30 diameter, and you could go to any type of braid that was more in the 0.20, obviously it's going to dive more. I think that's where I really got into the braid, is because all these cranks I wanted to use, I wasn't getting deep enough. And I've kind of been stuck on braid for the last 6-7 years. And it's probably a mistake, because you don't probably need that on every system. So even somebody like me that's had some success, I mean, I don't think things through a lot. I just do it. And I probably need to go buy a lot of mono and rig up some of my crank rods, because on these lakes, there's really no purpose other than if you wanted to rip a crank and save a hook, or save a crank by bending a hook straight out on potholes. That's one positive I can see about running braid. Like a couple years ago on Lake Sakakawea, I was pulling braid and some snaggy stuff. And this is North Dakota. But I had mono leaders, and I snapped a couple leaders off, and then I went straight braid, and I figured out you could just most of the time pull your crank through that snaggy stuff. And for situations like that, the braid definitely is better. But I really kind of stopped pulling mono, and I know like I say, thinking about it, 4 or 5 years ago, Sam and I went out to Hanford, and he made that same comment that Dave said, all I use is mono. And I'm sitting here thinking to myself, man, I never use mono anymore. Sam and Dave are always doing. So I think you can do good with both. But I think that maybe I need to reflect a little bit on using it everywhere, because I don't know that it's necessary everywhere. And having that extra stretch of mono probably isn't a bad thing when you're pulling boards or any type of long lining. So.
Yeah, I've just always done good on mono, so I've never seen any reason to switch. I always people say, "Oh, the other stuff's so much more sensitive and all that," but I don't know.
That's the best part about it. You know when you're running clean, typically, and you can get deeper if you're pulling in current with if you don't want to pull lead or whatever. But you guys are very good. All you Moses Lake guys are very good at pulling lead.
Yeah. Well, I could. Sam, I can thank Sam for that one, and a couple of his friends, Burgess and all that. They kind of, watching those guys fish and stuff, and definitely.
Is Brad Phillips fishing this one?
I don't believe so. I think Sam's fishing with who was it? Well, he told me, I can't remember. One of the Spokane guys, I think so.
Well, Brad's won it before. I know that, and but his kids are playing baseball. I know that, so he's kind of taking a hiatus.
Yeah, I thought Sam was going to fish them all with him, but apparently he's not fishing any of them with him. He's not going to fish any of them. So, because of that.
So here's another question for you. So I've got in my sonar unit for my mapping, I have both the Navy Onyx chip and the Lake Master chip, and typically, they do pretty well, but out at Potholes, because the water fluctuates, you got high low, what do you guys find as far as trying your mapping out there to try and stay on any type of contour, especially back in the dunes? I find it absolutely no good.
I don't do that anymore. I guess I can reveal a secret. I go, if you really want to know that lake, you go in there in about the middle of, I told Chad this a couple of years ago, go there in like the middle of July when the lake's, where you can still get back there, and all the weeds are right to the surface, all the cabbage is right to the surface, and you can just go back there and just start running channels at 8 miles an hour and just save every one of them. There's not a channel back there I don't have a trail on at this point. So it makes it a lot nicer, especially running crankbaits, because I can follow those channels and very seldom go over anything that's going to, that I'm going to lose my crankbaits on. So if you really want to, that's the easiest way to do it. So,
yeah, that's what I ran into, because I basically just don't even look at it.
Yeah.
It's like, okay, whatever. It's like you, I've been back there so many times. I've got trails and all that. So I know where they're at, but at the same time, it's like my partner was asking, he's like, well, how do you know where all this stuff is? Because if you look at the chart, you could be sitting in 15 feet of water, but the chart's telling you're in 3.
Yeah.
And so, for anybody that's out there that's trying to rely on those things, it's pretty hard to do.
It's tough in that lake. Yeah. Seems like it seems like they even changed, even when they're like, some of them fill in a little bit, some years, some of the holes that are shallow up on you and stuff like that. So I don't think it stays consistent all the time. It seems to change a little bit here and there. So got to kind of check up on them every once in a while, but July's a good time to go learn it. If you want to, learn the channels, that's probably the best time to do it.
I remember Dave, a couple of years ago, he told me, he said, you need to go out there right now. And unfortunately, July is impossible, it seems like, for me to get any free time. And he's right. I need to get out there when the water is down to the point and mark all these channels out. And it's really tough right now. Like I feel, I'm not comfortable out there, but I feel like I know it. When I went out there Saturday, it was a different world out there. And I had some waypoints. Of course, I updated my graph, which lost all of which for some reason decided to delete all of my mapping that I'd made. But I still had the waypoints, but I went to them waypoints and I was just looking around. I'm like I went to Winchester. I'm like, is this Winchester? This doesn't look like Winchester at all. And then I had to go way back in there until I'm like, all right, this is it. It just looked so much different to me compared to last year. Because I really hadn't started exploring the dunes until last year. I'd kind of stuck out to the face of the dunes, the Crab Creek area, the other side of the lake. But last year was maybe the last 2 years Dan and I started exploring deep in the dunes. And last year it was shallow. I got stuck out pre-fishing at least once, and I hit a couple sandbars. So not this year. You can go wherever you want. It kind of feels like.
Yeah. If there's willows sticking out of the water, you can run right over them. You're not gonna bottom out. So
yeah. Well, you know what? I think you jinxed me that though, Chad, because it was Friday. I was going over in an area that I was like, oh, I'm pretty confident with this, and I ended up hitting bottom. But I don't think I've ever done that out here.
I hit something too, but I was in my little boat and I didn't care. So that boat, if I hit something, get stuck, I'll just get out and push. But I was ripping around back there last weekend. I think it was just a floating log or something, and took a couple chunks out of my prop. But
oh no,
yeah, you think the beavers for that one probably.
I think that's exactly what it was.
Yeah.
Where did I see? Somewhere I did see a beaver chewed log that was kind of sticking out of the water. That was in a kind of a, man, I can't remember where the hell that was, but it was in a conspicuous area that I'm like, man, I hope somebody doesn't run through here. But I think a beaver had chewed it, and it looked like a spear point, but it was jammed into the ground, and the water is so high, it was at a point where if somebody hit it at the right angle, it wouldn't be good. So you still got to be careful out there, I guess.
Yeah, all that stuff floating up that's been, high and dry all winters. So stuff they leave around a lake coming up like that, there's always something floating around out there. But
yeah. Well, cool. You got anything else, Chad?
No, I'm ready. I'm going to head out there tomorrow and try to figure some stuff out myself and explore more and probably do more driving around than fishing. And, hey, we'll see what happens. I never have had much confidence going into this one, so it's not much of but it'd be nice to have a decent showing out there, and just be nice to catch some fish, man. The first couple tournaments out, I missed the last one, but it'd be nice to have a tournament where you actually catch some fish and not have to struggle and catch fish, and I hope these things turn on out there.
Yeah.
It's time. They should turn on, but man, I'm starting to wonder what's going on now, because it should already be pretty good. A guy should be able to go out there and, as long as things aren't getting pressured too bad, hook 15 to 25 fish. That's kind of pretty standard for this time of year in that lake. But not this year.
How much weight did you have last year to win it both days?
43, I think is what we ended up. Or no, that was 30, probably 33, because we only had 12. We were 8 pounds out after the first day, but then we weighed 23 the second. So 30, about 35 pounds probably. So
you had 10 pounds on the first day and 23 on the second?
12, just under 13 the first day. Yeah, we were caught a lot of fish, but we couldn't catch. Like I said, they were all 19 inchers. And we'd been catching, quite a few 20, 22s, 20 to 24 inch fish, which is pretty good in that lake. I mean, you can get on a pot of those. You're going to cash a check. You can get those for a couple of days. You're going to be right in the top, There's not a lot
Did your fish just get big in the same spots on day two, or did you just go somewhere else?
Oh, we went to another spot. I literally, the day I side scanned on Thursday, I pulled into that bay and I could see like 50 fish on my side scan at one time. It's like, my God, if those are walleye, this is going to be a game changer. And I threw a crankbait out just to see, and I didn't even get the second one in the water, and I had one on. So I just, hightailed it out of there. And nobody, as far as I could tell, nobody fished it. We didn't touch it the first day. I figured because I really thought we could get a good bag where we were at. And you know how it is. You get the spot we fished the first day was a spot that was getting pounded on by a lot of guys, but those spots can be really good the first day of a tournament. They very seldom are the second day, but it seems like, I don't know if you guys notice this, but it seems like you get in a spot like that where everybody's fishing it the first day. It's almost like it turns those fish on. They just like bite like crazy, but you you're almost wasting your time going back to those spots the second day, it seems like. So that was kind of our game plan going in. So, and it worked. I mean, but, we fished through there with the crankbaits and all we caught was dinks, and we switched to worms, but we also went deeper. We were catching them 8 foot of water the first day. And we caught all our fish in 12 to 14 the second day. They like moved off the weed lines and they were out just laying flat in the mud or like out in the sand or something. There was no vegetation, no nothing out there. That's just where they moved to, almost because of the pressure or whatever. But
speaking of pressure, last weekend, I don't know, you said you guys were out there Saturday, right?
Yep.
Yeah, there was a ton of boats out there. Holy cow, between the bass tournament and that club event they had going on for the walleye club.
Yeah.
It was
it was
a madhouse.
The bass guys I talked to, I asked, "Do you catch any walleyes flipping?" I'm like, "No, nobody that I heard did." And normally they do. Yeah. So those fish just aren't chewing at the moment. But we've, I think if we hit that 60 degrees, maybe they'll fire up. I don't know. That's what it normally is out there during our tournaments. 60, 62.
Yeah.
But it was, like Lonnie said, 57, 58 last weekend, and they just weren't ready.
I finally found some 60-degree water yesterday. It was barely, 59, 60. It wasn't over 60. But it's starting to get there, and then we got some, not today, but it looks like it's going to be like no wind and low 70s for the tournament. So maybe that'll,
Yeah, not like today with 50-mile-an-hour winds.
Yeah, I fished 2 hours this morning, so I had to work on the house. So we went and hit a couple spots real quick and got the heck out of there before it started screaming. So,
I will not complain about the temperature that we have for this, because some of them years when it's 90 out there, it's just like, oh my God.
Yeah, no wind, the bugs back. The tunes are brutal. At least they don't bite you, but boy, you suck a bunch of them in.
I've never been on a body of water that's worse than Potholes. When it comes to bugs, it's mind blowing. A couple years ago, I had the game plan to camp out there at night, and I took the tent out of my boat, put it on the ground, looked around, grabbed that tent, put it back. It was unbelievable how many bugs right when that sun went down rose out of the mud.
Yeah, mosquitoes at night. I don't know what those things are during the daytime, but at least they don't bite. But yeah, at nighttime it's a different story. It's all mosquitoes in.
It was horrible.
Yeah, the first time I ever camped out there, I did the same thing. I still lived in Port Angeles at the time. We'd come over and fish a little bit, and we did the same thing. We were just going to sleep under the stars on cots, And it's like we went to bed. It's like, man, I think the propane tank's leaking, man, or something. Just hearing all this racket. It's like, oh, you look up and it's just a cloud. You couldn't even.
I heard it. Yeah, that's exactly it.
It's like, holy smokes, man.
That's exactly it. I heard it. I was like, what is going on here? And I'm like, oh my God, what? And then the mosquitoes. I was putting my tent up as quick as I could to get in there, but even by the time I got it set up, there were like 50 of them in my tent. So I folded it back up, threw it in the boat, and I went and slept in my truck.
Yeah, it was fresh meat, man.
Oh man, they were ready to chew on it.
Cool.
That's why I don't fish at night.
I've seen a couple videos of guys carp shooting at night. Scott Hansen, I think, or was it Scott? Somebody did a video out there carp fishing at night, shooting carp, and I was like, oh my God, no way.
Yeah.
That had to be miserable.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, for sure. All right, Dave. Well, I appreciate you coming on, man. It was good.
Right. Yeah, it was fun. Appreciate it. Thanks for having me.
Well, good luck to you, even though you don't need it.
Well, every tournament's different. I'm not breathing with confidence right now. Trust me, after the last couple of days. So I definitely got some searching to do. So,
well, with the streak you're on, we might have to have you on again if you end up winning this thing.
Well, that'll work. Be glad to. So
you're gonna have to spill all the beans though if you win 4 in a row.
Maybe half a bag. I don't know about the whole thing.
Yeah.
All right. Well, thanks a lot.
All right.
Yeah. Thank you. Talk to you guys later.
All right. See you.
See you.